folder.
Okay, we'll go
It
ahead
doesn't
and get
take
started
that
on
long.
the
Well, I do, yeah. I have to
FBS
follow.
bells and whistles.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you've been here for my other 3 presentations, I may mention some of this stuff in them because I try to point out helpful, useful tips throughout all my presentations. There'll be some new stuff in here as well, but we'll cover some stuff again that I've already covered today. First off is just appearance. You know, we're sitting in front of the computer all day long. We like to see what we're looking at. Like, nice. Makes us feel good. So you can definitely change the background color. You don't have to stick with the plain blue. There's every color of the rainbow that you can pick to have that background color. Your colors and I say colors and margins, that's the coloring, the highlighting of all the words, the fonts, everything in FBS you can change. You can also add what's called a user-defined menu list on the main screen. It shows up under the current tasks, and you can have words like lists, or you can have pretty little icons. You can add pictures that mean reports. So, you know, $, can mean income statement, and a picture of a pig can be your closeout report. You know, you can add different stuff like that. And you can add your own picture on the front instead of I look at it so often I don't remember what it is. But some of those pictures Norm has picked over the years hasn't been the most pleasant to look at. The one with there's some kind of GPS spotted up map for 1 year was really bad. But you can add your own picture, whatever you want, your family and animal, whatever, to that main screen so you like it. It doesn't have to be Norm's pick of the year there if you don't like Norm's pick. He doesn't always consult me or Cheryl or anybody who might have an opinion before
He asks me, but he doesn't always go by what I say.
That's right. You never know.
But the one reason we do that is that so when you install your next version,
You know.
you've got this new picture up. You go, oh, I got it.
Yeah.
Because it's always going to be a new picture. You change that picture. I think we're on the drone this year.
But yeah, the drone, that looks like a duck. Somebody said, is that a duck in the air? No, it's a drone. That's right. And I'll go through the slides, and then we'll kind of go through where you can change that stuff at. It's just so hard to see if you're like to do screenshots. There's also hotkeys in FBS, and they're designed to make your data entry easier. This includes function keys using page up, page down, plus and minus for date. You can find the complete list under help and then hotkeys. Just have some of my favorite ones. And your function keys mean different things in different areas of the program. But when you're on a data entry screen, F4 is a calculator. It doesn't just calculate. When you get your value at the bottom, you hit enter and it puts that value in the field for you, so you don't have to retype it. So that's nice. F10 is, if you're viewing the reports, F10 will copy the principal area, so the area in black, send it to the clipboard so you can paste that into Excel. F11 will take the entire report, principal and non-principal area, and put it into a clipboard so you can paste it to Excel. We mentioned earlier, if you're in an entry, you're in the vendor screen or the vendor field, you hit F12. It will fill in your ledger, center, and division with the most recent ones used for that vendor. When you're in a report and you ran the report and you're like, you know, what date range did I run that for? What date cash exchange did I run that for? If you hit F4 on your report, it will bring up a box and tell you how you ran that report. So you don't have to close the report and rerun it just to verify how you ran it. You can hit F4 and it will tell you. If you're in the date field, plus and minus will add or subtract dates. And when you're in the entry field, F8 will bring up your macro list. I've mentioned F1 a couple times. And you run the report, you hit F1 and bring up the help file associated with that page if there is one. So those are some of my favorite ones. But there's a bunch, so definitely look through that. Macros, if you're not using them, you should be. And they speed up your data entry and they speed up report running and it cuts down on errors. There's both input macros and report macros. They can be saved as you make your entries or run your reports. So as you're entering, save new macro. So when it's up in the top right hand corner, there's a box to check that says save macro. And then to retrieve the macro, you click F8, or there's a button that says vendor/macro when you're on the entry screen. When you're running reports, there's a box, a little radio button at the bottom right-hand corner that says save new macro or update macro if you've changed the date. If you do a new one, it lets you name it. When you are saving new report macros though, you click OK, it runs the report. You have the report up on the screen in front of you. To save that macro, you have got to click the close button. If you hit the red X, it doesn't save the macro. So you have to hit the close button to save the macro. And you won't see the macro on your reports until you close out of the report menu and reopen the report menu, which refreshes that screen. And then you can see those report macros. They'll show underneath the main report name. So if you have a user-defined report that you made a macro for, it'll have user-defined report, and then you'll have a dash underneath it, and you'll have your macro name right there. But you can, if you don't want to do it as you're entering or as you're running the reports, they can all be set up ahead of time. For input macros, that's under setup accounting macros, and for report macros, on the report screen, there's a button that says set up report macros, and you can add new ones there without actually running the reports. Another cool thing about FBS is scanner interface, and that allows you to link any transaction plus entry with a PDF or a picture. And it doesn't have to even be something you scan. It can be something that's emailed to you. You know, you get an invoice emailed to you, or a lot of the vendors, you have to go to their website. You can download your invoices there. So you go there and you get a PDF or Excel sheet, and you can print it as a PDF if it's an Excel. And then you can link it to your entries and your check deposits, APs, ARs, journal entries. You can batch scan and link them all later, or you can link the documents as you enter into FBS. It does require a Twain compatible scanner, and you probably have never noticed this before, but nearly all scanners are Twain compatible. Twain is a acronym for some kind of interface that makes them work with all kinds of softwares. I say most. I did run into a scanner this week that was not Twain compatible. And if your scanner doesn't come with a Twain driver on the CD, then you can probably get one from the manufacturer's website. If you're having problems with the scanner, you buy a new scanner and it's not working, and you just plugged it in with your USB port and it started scanning, there's a good chance you need to insert the install CD and install the Twain driver off the CD. But most of them do work. I will say that if you have a scanner that is a multi-purpose machine, so it's a scanner, printer, copier, fax thing, those do not work quite as well as a single-purpose desktop multi-sheet scanner.
They're slower, much slower.
And they are slower. And then sometimes those multi-purpose machines aren't seen as scanners by your actual computer. If your computer doesn't recognize it as a scanner, FBS has a hard time recognizing it as a scanner.
And did you tell me ScanSnap's not a Twain, or you just doesn't recognize it?
ScanSnap, and it's similar to like that Neat Desk and those other ones. They have an option to scan it and save. They're normal. Those type of scanners, like the ScanSnap and the Neat Desk, they save them in their own proprietary file format. It's not like
a true PDF.
It's not a PDF, and that's the problem. You can usually set them to scan as a PDF, but then you lose the filing capability of the scanner,
Okay.
or whatever it does within its own file format. Because I know like Neat Desk ones are, instead of .pdf, they're .nt something. I think.
Mine are .pdf.
Okay, so you might have yours set up too. Some of them aren't though. So you have to be careful on that when you're using some of those types of scanners. I know that all Epson scanners are Twain compatible. All Canon scanners are Twain compatible. I think all Brothers single-purpose scanners are Twain compatible. The other thing you gotta be careful with is wireless versus wired scanners. Wireless will work if you have a good network and connectivity within your office, they do take longer. Just because I know if you have a wireless, I think my wireless printer, even if I'm printing just from my printer to my wireless printer, it takes forever to transmit the signal, and so does the scanning between those wireless ones. So I do recommend having a hardwired, it plugs into your computer with a USB or whatever. But then the scanner interface has the documentation right there with your entry. You bring it up. Another bell and whistle I should have probably mentioned with scanner interface, and I just thought this morning I didn't have it in this slideshow, is the ACH module, which we've had for several years, but I just had a lot of interest in the last couple months is the ACH module. And if you're not aware of that, that's where you, in FBS, you have your vendors fill out forms with all their bank information. You put the bank information into FBS. And then when you pay an AP, it creates a notcha file that you upload to your bank, and it pays all the checks at once through your bank, through the notcha file. And we do have that capability of creating that file for the bank. It just keeps you from having to print checks or go to all banks have bill pay websites, so you got to double type it in. You typed it in FBS once, and it's kind of a pain to go type it again in the bank site. So if they do allow ACH notcha files to be transmitted, you can do it through the ACH module. It's pretty easy to set up.
There's often a fee to that. Okay.
Yeah, there can be a fee.
And it varies by...
Every bank is different. And how long and how many lines are on the file. But talk to your financial institution if that's something you might be interested in. And Cheryl and I can help talk to the bank to see what kind of notcha file they need, because there's a couple different types of files we found that they need. But we can help get that set up. And then we also have, for personalizing, making your FBS experience unique, we also have preferences, or the hidden secrets of FBS. Seems like more and more we're adding more preferences instead of adding options to reports, because we're trying to cut down on the clutter on the reports for people who don't want, who may not need or want additional new features, or that's how we're adding some of the new features that are that we might have to charge for different reasons. We add them to the preferences, but there's also a lot of preferences in there that you all have access to that help with defaults and how things are viewed and saved and where they're saved. You can put stuff in there such as, does an entry default be cleared or uncleared? Where are you saving your backup to? Where are you restoring your backup from? Where are you always exporting to? You can set all those up in preferences and have defaults there for those. And we'll go through some of those preferences here in a minute again. Some other miscellaneous but important features of FBS that you may not be aware of is the AP and AR due dates. You can attach those due dates to the vendor in the vendor file, telling when the billing cycles end, when the bills are due, those all in, so then it automatically populates those due date fields for you. We do have a close period module, which if you're closing out at the end of the month, you don't want anybody to be able to go back in that month and change anything financial. You can close that period, and only administrators have the option to reopen the period, so that you can't have any unexpected changes done after you've reported on that period. And a period doesn't have to be a month. It can be a quarter, it can be a year, it can be 2 months. Whatever you define as your period, you can close it. You can lock your bank accounts to a division. This does have to be a bank account for a division. So you can't have one bank account for 2 different divisions. It has to be a one-on-one relationship there. We can create AR invoices and statements that you can print out through FBS, and they can have logos and stuff like that at the top. You have options for fonts and stuff like that in there as well, and spacing and lines, and all your details in there on your invoices and statements. You do have the ability to print on blank check stock. So even if you have 4 different bank accounts, you can have 1 check stock in your printer, and then be a bank account for, has it by company, Cheryl? You do one blank, you can do a blank check.
You can have more than one. You can.
It's by bank account, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's by bank account.
You still
Yeah.
need special ink for that?
Yes. Well, some do. Some require special ink. They do all require a special Micker font to be installed for that Micker line.
And that you well, some of that's free and some of it isn't.
Yeah, this depends.
Yeah.
They're getting away. It used to be magnetic ink you had to have, but
Really expensive.
we're finding the last ones we have set up, we didn't have to have special ink. Did we show up for?
The one in Arkansas
Did they
They
have
did have to have,
the ink?
yeah, which is a special, they just dedicated one printer
Yeah.
to that. So you can have a separate check printer from your report printer,
Mhm.
so you're not
Using that ink.
using that ink for anything but checks if you want.
So that blank check stock means it prints absolutely everything. The lines, the headings in the front of the lines, the Micker
Yeah,
line,
yes.
everything. That is possible. So, if that's something that would interest you guys, we can help you set that up. And then we have report generator. And report generator is Transaction Plus, Smart Feeder, Smart Breeder, I believe. And basically, report generator is you can pull out absolutely any information you've put in nearly any way. So people who are looking for daily entry report. You want to see every check that was put in that day to validate or verify or have in records. You could write a report for that by entry. Every check entered on 8/24. It can list check number and amount, or you could add whatever you want, check number, amount, vendor, who entered it, even if you have network set up and it tracks your usernames and passwords. So report generator takes a little setup, but you can get basic data entry out. There's no there's not a lot of calculating or totaling in there, but it's like lists of entries and dollar amounts and quantities and stuff like that. Then get out. And because, like I said, we'll go through some of this in the live product, so we can see it better than on little screenshots up there. Okay, so to change your colors, your main color in the background here, you can go to Setup, General Information, and I can pick any color from here. I can adjust the greens and blues and the color I have selected until I get the color I like. So if you know all your little colors you like, whatever you want here. This is also really handy if you have multiple companies to have each company set to a different color, so visually you're in a different company. So I can save that. Just change that right there. The picture in the front, this is the drone picture that's here. I mentioned somebody thought that was a duck. It's not a duck, it's a drone. But you can save your own picture. What you do is you save it as a .bmp file. You have to be careful of the resolution. It has to be a pretty small picture, but you save it to your program directory as .bmp. I think it's farm.bmp, but you can change the name of it. And then it'll pull in your picture here. In preferences, you have the option to take away this picture up here at the very top. It's like the farm scene and the pigs. You can take that out of there. You can take this tickler file down here in the white, which if you don't pay attention to this and you have it here, do pay attention to it. There's always, if we can get messages up there about outages and phone outages at the office or any kind of special announcements, we put them up here. But you can also contact support by clicking on FBS support. It sends me an email. But you can, if you don't want this box here, if you don't have internet connection, and it gives you an error message if you don't have internet connection down there, you can take that out and it doesn't bother you anymore. Oh, I was trying to go here. I'm sorry, I forgot where I go. Colors, the colors and margins. Here's the colors and margins. So on your help, you can have the foreground, which is the font is black. The back is yellow color, but you can change these to whatever you like. So now my font is red, and I can have my background as green. Pretty ugly, but whatever. You can change this. The messages you get everywhere are normally blue and black, but you can change them. When you print the report, you notice everything's in green and white. If you don't want green and white, you can change it to white on white. You could change it to any color you want here to show what's that green. Input bar colors are pink right now. You can change it whatever you want here. The top margins, the reports, you can change here. There's just a bunch of different color options and then the other margins there as well. Preferences while we're here, we'll go here. Down near the bottom, it tells you what the valid values are in the blue box for each line. You go on down and kind of what you're to expect by the different options here. So AP entry is cleared. Tells you the default is no, it's not cleared. But you can change it to yes. This is when you pay the AP. So when you write that check for the AP entry, do you want to show as cleared? You can put a Y in there, and it will always show that AP entry is cleared the bank. The check that pays the AP entry is cleared the bank. When you pay the AP entry, do you always want to default to print the check? Default is yes. Maybe you don't want it to print the check. You want it to show, you put no, and then I think it defaults to do not print check, but mark does print, I think. AR entry is clear. This is deposit side of the AR entry. Yes or no, defaults to yes. AR invoice due days. So this is if your vendor due date is set to 0 and you want all your ARs to default to like 15 days after the date of the invoice, you can put 15 in there. The next three are kind of crop out of inventory valuation. Let's skip over those a little bit. This is dashboard save routine and nothing that we don't do the emailing anymore, so the next two email ones are not active. The FBS help file. If you're on a network situation, you have to move the FBS_help.chm file to your local computer, and then you type in on this line where you saved that to, so that when you go to the help file or hit F1, it knows where to find that file at. So if you're not in network, if you have only one computer and you're just single installation, you don't have to worry about that. Labor allocation and CM pigweeds, we're going to skip over. CM push centers is multi-company. If you're pushing your centers, and push ledgers is the same way. Report size is the height for report in pixels. You probably don't want to change that. I never have, but I guess you could if you're having a problem with your monitor and ratios. If you want the report parameters to be sent to the clipboard to save at the top when you paste into an Excel format, you would click yes here. It defaults to no. And the save print area, this is if you set up a report macro, you move your print area and you only print a portion of the report on the macro. If you want that print area to save, you put yes in here. It'd be all your macros, though, not just specific macros. Scanner ones, we don't need that anymore. We were having issues with scanners a couple years ago. That was in there. If you have scanner interface, you have to have something in entry type. As these are what ones you want to be able to link files to: check, deposit, payable, receivable, or journals. If you have scanner interface and you are bulk scanning, you can have it. If your scanner saves to a specific file folder on your computer and names it a certain way, you can put that path and that naming in here, and then you don't have to rename your files when you're bulk scanning. This is screen background colors. This is changing. Do you want to change the main screen only, or all screens, or main input and reports? Changing the colors there. Type of user menus. This is the if you had user-defined menu here, it'd be under the current tasks over kind of this area. This is if you want buttons or slash icons or a list. This is if you're doing exports, if you want more like pivot tables instead of bar graphs. This is if you're valuing your inventory, if it's from first in, first out, or on purchase price. Yeah, this is for Vista computers. I don't think anybody running Vista very much anymore, so just worry about that one. Cash look back months and cleared look back months. We talked in an earlier presentation, but cash look back months is on your AP and AR, how far back it's going to look for unpaid AP and AR. Default is 12, you can have from 6 to 72. Cleared look back is in your checks and deposits, how far back it's going to look for cleared checks and deposits, meaning that after 4 months, if a check or deposit hasn't been cleared, it goes back and acts like a voided entry. You can set that up to 12 though. The next one down is just for a special commercial mill we don't have. The Conservice ones you may or may not have. I think I had to type those in. Those are for the Conservice interface. Drill days is not active anymore. If you have a crop fuel usage account, that means it allocates, you keep all your fuel unallocated and it allocates out for you. It's a special module. You can put that in there for the account number. You have some more basic ones here. There's a lot in here. I don't have time to go over absolutely all of them, but we'll go down to the basic ones down here. The hide picture above menu is the one I mentioned. It gets rid of that picture up top. You can put a guest in there and it hides it.
All of these are requests that some of our users have asked us for.
Somebody somewhere has asked them.
So instead of making it, universal, because maybe only one or, half a dozen people want it that way, we put it in as a preference.
Yeah, you can change your printer font so if you don't like I think prints in Courier, you can change it to whatever printer font you want. Size. Clear down here, we get some more stuff. Disable AP and AR. I get this a lot. If you don't have AP and AR, the last version automatically installed the setup files for it. So it gives you a warning if you don't use AP and AR. AP and AR accounts are not set up. Do you want to continue? Well, to get rid of that warning, you put a Y to disable both AP and AR on these fields, and then that warning goes away. You can have a default bank account. You can have a default entry division. Entries are cleared. There's all kinds of. So scroll through here if you think, read what it says down here. If you have any questions, give me a call if you still don't understand what it's going to do for you. There's just a lot of stuff in there.
Sarah, we're finding out that the explanation for those aren't available on the Ag Compass website. We need to talk to Ken.
Oh, that's odd. Yeah, we'll figure that out. These are the hotkeys I was talking about. Here's a whole list of hotkeys. It breaks them down by reports, exports, calculators, input dates, TA input. You can see there's a whole list here.
How did you get to that again?
Help.
Okay.
FBS hotkeys.
Oh.
There's also a pretty good listing of all the preferences in the help line, so.
Yes, there would. Yeah, absolutely. If you go under help topics here, preferences. Preference table. Oops. I can't get on the right one. Yeah, there is a list of all the preferences here in the help file as well. The help file, I guess, is a bell and whistle. You got help and help topics and get in there. I think what else I forgot. Here's the scanner interface, kind of what the interface looks like. I don't have anything in here right now, but you can scan new invoices here. You do have, if your scanner can scan multi-pages, you can scan multi-pages and attach multi-pages to any entry. I mentioned macros. Here's a report macros. Everything that has the dots in front of it is a macro that's already set up. If you're looking here, sometimes you get a lot of macros here. And sometimes they clutter things up. If you ever want to hide all your macros, you just click on hide macros and they go away. Again, they display it. Here's where you can edit macros if you don't want to go to the actual report. Highlight it, click on change, it brings up the screen. You can change your dates here. Click OK and save it. It'll save it. One thing I haven't brought up is the user-defined help. And usually I always bring this up, I forgot to. This is a help file in FBS that you set up. You can pick to attach it to a macro or entry or anything like that, and it's just an internal note. So this one is set up to on my ledger account 300. I have a note that says first help, but you can type in here like this is used for transferring crop to livestock. And what that means is when you go into, you can go into setup, and you can see that ledger account. I don't know where it went. I think it's on entry, I'm sorry. It's on input here. There's an H beside it. It means if I highlight that and hit F1, it's gonna bring up that note. So you know if there's an H beside anything in those brackets, if there's a help file attached to it, that there's a note in there that you might wanna read. So I always recommend, if you have a position in your company where you have high turnover, like it's your basic data entry, you have high school students through their college help in the summer or whatever it might be, that you add a lot of notes in there like that, so if they have any questions, they can go through, and they know that H means if they hit F1, there'll be a note there for them. Also, if you have a planned reason to be on vacation, or you're leaving for a medical leave or something like that, you want to leave notes throughout the program for whoever's going to be filling in for you. You can use that user-defined help and keep those notes in there for that.
And you got to that under setup.
Setup and user-defined help. I mentioned the user-defined menu. I'm going to click on that really quick. I can add new. So we're going to do check. Say I want a quick button to add a check. And so I type in check. And it's going to be an input option, and it's going to be a check. And I can choose to have a picture. And my pictures here are my eclipse, my $sign, this guy feeding pigs, this pig, or this version 8. I want none, I just want to say check. So I'm gonna hit save. And then I'm gonna hit save. And then I need to have that turned on though. Helps if you have that on. Where does that go? User defined. It will show up here on the left. I didn't find it, but I didn't, where did this go? Input menu option, somebody asked me, it always says defaults to 10. You can change that to any number you want though. It shows like last 10 entries. If you want to change it to 100 or 20, you can. I don't know, I thought that's input menu option though. Set it to 1 and then 100, and it's going to show 100 lines on that. I'm going to show that in a minute. I just saw that when I was trying to find this one for that user-defined option. Where's the user-defined? I don't know all these preferences either, so it's not, I apologize. I should know this better.
Is it the type of username?
Yeah, do you see that?
Yeah, CM. under the common. And it says type of user.
Sorry. Okay. I think I went 2. I might have to go out and come back in, but it's one of those preferences that pops up a little menu down here, and I could have an entry of checks, and I wish I could figure it out. Shoot, I don't have to go back in and come in. Some preferences require you to leave the program and come back in, and some do not.
Refresh that.
Oh, there it is. Okay. So I had to go out and come back in. So now I have that check here, and so if I click on check, it's automatically bringing up my check. I no longer have to go to input general and check. It comes right up. So I could add another one here. I could add, AP, whatever you want here. It could be report. It could be check register. It could be a macro even for the report. All the macros are listed as, should be listed as well. Again, I don't want a picture. I want, I have to come out, go back in to refresh that menu option, but it will be there if I want to come back in.
And there's under user memory, you have user
User-defined setup, user-defined menu. So those are quick ones then. So
Are those user specific or are those universal?
that would be by company.
Okay.
By company, not by user. And then come up here. I changed this. I didn't have that preference set right, but I should be able to change that preference there too. I thought I changed that a minute ago. But menu options, menu page last. Oops, 100. No, I'm doing something wrong on that, but usually you can get that to change from last 10 to last 20 or 50 or 100 on that one as well. Kind of a fun one. But any other questions or things you would like to know or think you should be able to change that you want to know about that I didn't cover? Okay. One thing I will say, just put it out there, we have these, the check for update option here. I know people have called a lot saying, hey, there's no updates lately. We have been slower this year just because of the new Martin coming on board and Greg changing roles in the programming. So if you don't see a lot of changes here, like you were used to seeing some kind of weekly when Dan was with us, thank you for being concerned, and we appreciate your checking for updates. I mean, feel free to call and just double check it. You're not missing anything, but they have been slower to come this year than they have in the past. So be aware of that. I think that's all I had. We have 15 minutes. I can open it up to any questions over anything. If you can come up and talk to me one-on-one for the next 15 minutes. And Cheryl's available for any one-on-one time as well, unless she just left the room. I don't know. No, I'm here. Oh, she's back there. She's hiding from me. So
Isn't there like an F8 or something for the long description too? If your description, you want your description longer?
F6.
F6, that's what it is.
Yep. F6 will give you, it's been a long description on your entry.